welcome back. Today I wanted to do a little bit of a journaling video because that's also a huge hobby of mine. It's been kind of a staple in my day-to-day activities for 6 years now, almost 7. I'm gonna keep those a little too separated. So in October, I think it'll be 7 years. But I started journaling on a whim when I was 13. I guess I had a lot of things to say, and I was in 6th grade, and I've just gone through so many different phases of journaling since then, and I wanted to show you what I like to do when I go on a trip, because I've been traveling for the last couple of weeks, and I was gone for a while, went through a lot of states, and so I kind of wanted to show you how I like to journal when I'm traveling. Especially if I have a lot of time on the trip, if I have a lot of downtime, like this trip was leaving with my mom from where we live in North Carolina and driving down to Texas to see my grandparents. And when you're at your grandparents' house, at least if you're at my grandparents' house, there's not a lot to do. It's a lot of news on the highest volume blasting on the TV, or sports on the highest volume blasting on TV, and that's about all that happens there. We did go on a lot of little adventures with my grandma, who had a hip break and surgery a couple of months ago, and so she's pretty mobile, but she wanted to get out and do a lot of adventures because she'd been kind of cooped up in the house for a while. And so we went and did a lot of those. Had a lot of little day adventures, and I journaled about them. So I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna talk you through it, and I'll put up closer images of the actual pages and stuff so you can see. This is my journal. I've had it for 3 months, almost 3 months. I'm not as far as I would like to be in it, but that's okay. But this trip took up a lot of space in it, so that was really fun. So I started this trip section on May 30th, which was the Saturday which we left. And I just did a little cute little intro to the Texas trip. This was done in the car, so it wasn't as smooth as I would have liked it, and I wanted to make it a lot more fun than it turned out. And so Saturday, we had a good time. We drove through the mountains, and one of the things I really like about the mountains is that there's the water coming through the cracks of the mountains. When you're driving on it, you can see little waterfalls coming through the rocks, and I just think it was really pretty, and so I drew it with my highlighters, and I really wanted to go for a watercolor look, but I only had highlighters with me, so I did my best. Then we stopped at Great Smoky Mountain Knife Works, which I did mention in this journal page. I wrote this at the entry at the hotel when we were really exhausted, and so I did not elaborate as much on what we did, but we basically drove and drove and drove, and then we went to the Rocky Mountain Knife Works and bought some gifts to bring my grandparents and my little cousin who lives down there with my aunt and uncle as well. And it was Smoky Mountain Knife Works. Okay, that's such an interesting place because they get away with having so many questionable items and selling them and reselling them to people who collect those kinds of items, maybe not for the best reasons, by calling them artifacts. It's such an overstimulating place, and it's very labyrinthy in there. I ended up getting separated from my mom several times, which is fine. I'm a big girl, but I just didn't have anything to look for because I had been helping my mom look for stuff. And so then my quest changed to finding the weirdest and craziest stuff I could in the display cases and stuff. And I sent those to my siblings in our little sibling group chat. And so that's what I did at Smoky Mountain Knife Works. So we did that, and then I was just talking in my entry about how much driving it would be and how I was really excited to drive the next day. And then I skip Sunday in the entries because I drove for maybe 8 hours of the drive. I drove for 5 hours in the morning and then I took over when the sun set because my mom wears contacts and her contacts aren't street legal after dark. And we pulled up to my grandparents' house around midnight. We went to bed at like 1 because they gave us a tour of their new house because we hadn't seen it, and that was so sweet and fun. And seeing them again and getting their dog to recognize us and stuff like that. Then in the morning, my grandpa took us in their little van to the, what's it called? HEB, which is a huge like grocery branch in San Antonio. So I have a little coupon in here from HEB as well as a little entry. Yeah, and it's me talking about how long I drove and the Dallas area because that was hard to drive through. And then me talking about how the driving kind of messed with my health. I have a chronic condition that just the like stress is a big trigger. And so driving through a bunch of traffic kind of took me out for the next day. But it was a good day. We had a good day. We later went to a French restaurant with our family and that was really great. I got to see my aunt and my uncle and my little cousin and that was really sweet. And we had really, really good food and it was a good time. It was a really good time. And then we went back to their house and we just talked and catched up and it was really sweet. I love talking with my little cousin. She's 6 now. Yeah, she would be 6 now. She's turning 7. It was really sweet talking to her. She's a very bright kid and very fun. She's so silly and funny. So yeah, it was really great to catch up with them all. And then I drew a stereotypical truck. We had so many trucks around us on the highway. They were very concerning a lot of the time. Okay, this one I wrote Tuesday night. I was writing about how I got a disposable camera for the trip. I picked that up on Tuesday, so our second day there. And we picked it up, me and my mom with grandma, on the way to Boren or Bernie. My mom kept saying Bernie, I don't know. It's spelled Boerni. It is a like historical stone-built town. And we had a really good meal there at a Mexican restaurant that my grandpa love and that my grandpa like pointed to us to and be like, oh, if you're going there, that's a really good place to go. And we had really good food. I did try something new. I tried spinach enchiladas and it was on their vegetarian meal because I am vegetarian and it's very hard to be vegetarian in Texas a lot of the time. And so I did struggle with that a little bit on this trip, but I did try something new and it was a lot of spinach, but it was a good dish and I did enjoy it and I'm glad I tried something new. I'm so excited to get the disposable camera back. I took it to a like film development place. It's a decently new shop. I was there at its grand opening a couple months ago with my brother to come support. And it's where me and my brother take our film to get developed. And so my brother showed me how to do it when I dropped off this camera and fill out the form and what options. They have so many options of like the format you can get the film back in, digital scans, getting the negatives, all of that. So my brother helped me narrow down what I wanted and he's gonna help me edit them. And I'm very excited for how they turned out. This was my first time using a disposable camera, like all of the roll myself. I've taken 1 or 2 shots on other people's, but I'm really hoping it all turns out. I tried to use the flash when it said to use the flash and stuff like that. I'm really hoping it all turns out because I took some really great photos of my grandparents and I would love to have those. I'm really excited for when those show up and I'll probably put some of them on my TikTok account for this channel when I get them because I'm not gonna get them for another week, so I probably won't, a week or 2, so I probably won't be able to include them in this video, but I will include them on my TikTok probably, at least some of them. And then the next day we wanted to take my grandma out to see a movie, and so we went to Sheep Detectives, which is the Hugh Jackman sheep movie, basically. I really like it. I think it's really good. We went to it for Mother's Day, and so my mom had seen it and was like, oh, I think Grandma's gonna really like this. It was a little bit of a struggle to get her to the seats in the theater, just because, like everything, the theater was humongous. Like, it was in a mall, but we did not walk through the mall to get to it, but it was just humongous, and my grandma can't walk super far anymore, and so it had already started by the time we got her in the theater, but she loved it. She only fell asleep once, and it was only for a few seconds, and she was locked in the rest of this movie, and she really loved this movie. And we were talking about it on the car ride out, and I was asking her what her thoughts were, and she was like, who's the man that is in the movie? And I was like, oh, Hugh Jackman. And she goes, he is so good looking. He's blessed even. She called him a magical man. And I love my grandma so much. She had either a stroke or it might be dementia, but she has aphasia that's creeping in now. And so she has to like work up a lot to saying anything and like getting anything out. And so she'll work on it for like a couple minutes. And so I just loved that is what she was like, I need to get this out. I need to say this. They need to hear me say it, because she now makes those choices. And so she was just like, he was a magical man. He was so good looking. He was blessed even. And I was just like, yes, I love that for you, Grandma. So I just doodled a couple of sheep and I have the ticket. I always tend to put movie tickets in my journal. I have learned that if you do this, you should cover the front of it with tape, because it is made out of receipt paper. And so if you leave your journal in a hot car or just have it in a bag while you're walking around in the summer, the ink will fade because it is heat printed. And so this just saves the ink. It turns like a little greenish, but you can still read it, and that's what's important. And so I just doodled a little sheep about that and talked about that. And then of course, like all trips I take that involve family, there's also the pages and pages and pages of realization about family and like deep thoughts about how we're all connected. So we're gonna skip that. But then the next day, me and my mom did not take Grandma out. She needed a rest day, and so she just chilled at home with Grandpa, and she took some naps and hung out with her dog. And my mom and me drove to see her brother, my uncle, and my little cousin, and we went to Panda Express and I got a coffee. And I don't really like how this page turned out, but it was still a really good day and I wanted to include it. That one's a little bit more of a text entry than anything. And then, of course, the NBA Finals, Game 1, occurred on, I think it was Tuesday. Don't quote me on that, but yes, I think it was Tuesday. And so I was also in San Antonio for the second game, and so I watched it. I don't have a team that I particularly was rooting for. When I watched the first two games, I was, I guess, rooting for the Spurs because my grandparents were, since they just moved to San Antonio and they love sports. And my grandpa told me a lot about the players. For the rest of the finals, I was on the Knicks side because my brother is a huge fan of the Knicks and he was really excited, so he was sending us stuff and talking about it, and he came for a visit for the last game. And so it was really great to watch with him and him tell me about the players and about why he loves that team. But originally, I was in San Antonio talking about the Spurs. So I drew the Fiesta colors, which is a holiday down in San Antonio. And then I drew the Spurs logo. I really like how this page turned out. And then of course a little basketball. I really like how this one turned out. I think it's very cohesive and fun, and so I'm very proud of it. And then we drove all the way back. So I don't have journal entries about the last 2 days of travel, but I can tell you about it. They were very, very pretty. we took a different route this time, and then we also got rerouted when it's something about Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina area that like reroutes us for some reason. So we did on the final day get lost up in the mountains, and I was driving on back mountain roads in the pitch dark with kind of crappy headlights, watching for deer and stuff. So that was really creepy. I don't have a lot of footage of it in the dark because I was driving for that, but I do have some footage from us being in the mountains, and it was such a pretty area. Like, it was the cutest little towns, and we were like looking through the radio for stuff to listen to, and we fell on this woman's, I think her name was Diane, and we fell on her radio show, and it was her like DJing and giving love advice and like giving shout outs to and letting people dedicate songs to people they loved. And it was so funny because I don't think her name was Diane, but I'm gonna go with it, especially because I'm gonna say something mean. She wasn't very good at it. So this guy was like, oh, I had this girlfriend that stuck with me through everything. She stuck with me through like my drinking issues and me going back to school and everything. He was like, oh, can you pick a song? And she played Free Falling, which is not a love song. It's about a guy being like, I'm not good enough to date you, and so I'm letting you go, and now I'm gonna like be free falling. And it's just like, it was like not the vibe that it was supposed to be. And my mom and me were very entertained, but it was just so much fun because she had so much creative control. She was just like, she had the craziest like intro music. She was talking really weird. And it was just like, she had so many different weird segments, and she said so many like corny little intros, and I just loved that for her. Like, it really was the vibe, and she built such a fun little vibe. But me and my mom were just listening to that as we drove through like the back roads of rural North Carolina mountains, and it was really fun. And then the next page I'll show on camera. I had 2 days home to do laundry, and then I went on another trip, a 2-day trip with my mom up to Wilmington to go to my college orientation because it started at 8 a.m. and there's no way I could make it there except leaving at like 3, 4 in the morning to make it there at 8 a.m. So we went and we did an overnight trip. But it turned out really cute, and I got a little sticker and just like a lot of freebies from the orientation, and so the page turned out really cute. So I do have that. And so that's kind of how I journal a trip. I usually don't do this much like scrapbooking stuff, or I haven't recently. Now I've been really sticking to writing entries. And I will decorate with some stickers and some washi tape sometimes, but that has not been my vibe as much recently. I've been doing just like a lot of written entries. I think because I don't journal as regularly right now as I would like to, so I usually have a lot to say when I get to sit down and journal. So I've just been doing written entries recently. Yeah. So that was my trip journaled to San Antonio, Texas, and I'm gonna layer all the footage, and so I'm gonna layer all the footage and all the stuff that I have. Some photos, I'm gonna be selective on what I put in, but I will include some photos I have and some video I have, and then when I get the film photos back, I'll put them on my TikTok, so follow me there. It is also Laurel's library, and I just do little videos to promote my channel, to put in stuff I couldn't put in my video, and to alert you to when a new video is gonna be coming out. So follow me there, and I will see you guys next time.